in my team in particular. We'll give a little context of Citizens Financial Group and what we do, what industry verticals we work in. And then we're going to go through some of our challenges. We're going to go through our approach, some of the solutions, and I think most critical to us here is some of those outcomes. I'm going to try to move through the material pretty quick because I think questions and answers is a critical component of what we're going to do today. And I really want to address your concerns because different audiences have different experience. They're in a different place in their journey. So I really want to tailor this for you. So introduction, this is me, if you can't tell. So I've got about 18 years of experience. I spanned government, healthcare, and most recently finance. So the past 7 or 8 years, I've worked for Citizens Financial Group. And I sit in the operations area, which is one critical component, right? Because these low-code, no-code types of solutions, my business-enabled team sitting in operations can deliver these things faster, more efficiently than our traditional technology teams. And really, I can drive my own prioritization there. Throughout my 18 years, I've always had a focus in the technology space, right? And it's either from an analysis standpoint or a delivery standpoint, but it's always doing things better, faster, stronger through all of these organizations. There's 3 main drivers, again, that us being in operations, we drive our own priorities, number 1. Number 2, it gives us an opportunity to self-fund what we're delivering, right? iBPMS, Bizagi in particular, RPA is a critical component of what we have. We are paying for these things by delivering efficiency to the business. And that doesn't mean we're eliminating our human capital, right? We're retaining our subject matter expertise. We're retaining our people, but we are growing our business, right? And that's how we are funding these projects, is we are delivering it in operations, we are prioritizing, and we are putting it out there. So let's talk a little bit about Citizens. So we were started in about 1828. We have 2 industry verticals. We work in commercial and consumer space. And we really have a lot of services in both of those verticals. Our guiding principle for Citizens Bank is that when our customers succeed, we succeed, right? And that's an evolution. So we grow through delivering for our customers, word of mouth, we build up business, and that's how we operate. We have a credo. And our credo is doing the right things for customers, shareholders, colleagues, in the community. And there's no mystery to why customers is number 1 there, right? It's who we service, it's who we deliver for, and it really defines our success as an organization and helps drive growth. So just to give you some context, we are a large regional bank. We are striving to become a large national bank. But today we operate in 11 states. We have about $155 billion in assets, just over 1,100 different branches across the East Coast. And we have about 18,000 colleagues. Originally, we were a part of the Royal Bank of Scotland. And recently, Citizens Financial Group broke away and went public. So now we are an independent, publicly traded company. What makes us different, what differentiates us in the marketplace is really what I've touched on, is the customer obsession, right? Other banks, other organizations, I think, are deploying technologies out there to drive revenue, to drive growth, and to reduce the workforce, right? And that's how they're seeing the return on investment. And we have a slightly different strategy, which I think I touched on a little bit. So what are the challenges, right? So number 1, implement RPA. This is our primary driver of putting money back in the business, doing things better, faster, stronger, more time in the day, and we can support more business. And I put that up there as a challenge because we found that the primary roadblock to delivering RPA is the data coming into the bank, right? And that is where Bizagi is a key player, right? We plan on using Bizagi to digitize that data, to drive enablement, and take a look back at the pipeline of opportunity that we couldn't deliver on because of the different varieties and ways it comes into the bank. And there's a very good reason for that, right? We want to support our customers. We want to be flexible to their requests. We don't want to pigeonhole them into requesting only these services in only these channels. We want to open it up and have it flexible for them, but really have it standardized when it comes into the bank so that we can deploy our technologies. The way we run our operations today, and I'm sure some of you can relate, we don't have a unified, formalized workflow tool. If you ask other people in the organization, they'll say we're a Pega shop. From my perspective, in commercial space, we are managing the workflow through Access databases, Visual Basic.NET applications, right? These homegrown, user-developed applications. And we all know the challenges there, right? We have different metrics, we've got different formats. The senior leadership team who's looking across the organization is not seeing consistency in reporting and seeing consistency, right? And this is where Bizagi is really going to help us as well. We have a lot of business. Even in the commercial space, we offer a lot of products. All of those are in unique silos, right? And there's not a lot of cross-visibility between those, right? And kind of the buzz around the industry today is that 360-degree view of a customer, right? Not only historically or what their needs may be, but really up to the second information. When they request services from us or a small business starts up, they're requesting 5 or 10 different products, sometimes up to 20 or 30 different products, right? And how do we give them that complete view of where each of those products is, right? And how do we make sure that they know that we don't need anything else from them? We've got everything we need. We're set to go. We are delivering. In that constant communication and feedback loop and servicing that customer. So what is the approach? Right, there's a couple things here. And I really want to say that Bizagi in Catalyst to me really resonates, right? We are a little petri dish of action, right? We get inputs from the customer. We've got this flurry of activity that happens, and we're trying to deliver, right? Bizagi is going to be the catalyst in that. It is going to speed it up. It's going to allow us to get the information, to process that information much faster than we do today. And just a small example, we depend a lot on overnight cycles of our existing legacy systems to feed us data on how to take the next action, right? So if we onboard a new customer to our lending platform, we wait 24 hours and a new customer shows up on a report and it's going to drive some activity, right? Bizagi is going to instantaneously drive that activity same day. Really digitize the data, standardize the inputs, and the end game here is to have consistent outputs, to deliver for each of our customers in a similar way so they know what to expect. And really, the number one thing I really like to stress is this cultural transformation, right? Because we're changing the way we do business. It makes people nervous. It makes operations people a little nervous when robots come in and potentially do a part of their job. It makes our formalized technology teams a little nervous, right? Those are the people we used to depend on to deliver for us. And if we have low-code, no-code solutions that the business line is driving, the business line is developing, where does that leave technology? And they've got these kind of questions. So we've taken some approaches there. Really, we try to personalize what we're doing, right? So the main focus we have is in RPA. Bizagi is definitely where we're going and what we're implementing now. But just some examples of how we personalize RPA, right? We've got framed pictures of all our robots that do processes today, right? That hang on the walls, and people can see them, right? We have a Name the Robot contest for who gives us the best opportunity to automate, who saves the most time for the customer, removes these pain points. They get to name the robot, right? And no matter how goofy it is and what names they come up with, we're supportive of that. If you take a look at our organizational chart, there are robots within that organizational chart. We've really created a confluence of robots and people, and not a conflict of robots and people. And it comes down to a couple things, right? It's about honest communication. It's about what does that future landscape mean, And what skills do our current workforce need to enhance, retain, or focus on so that our digital workforce is more efficient, more valuable, and continues to be a part of our growth in the organization? So really, here we go. Oop. I think I went back a slide here. All right, so what are the solutions? Number one, like we talked about, right, enable the business, not IT, to drive the projects. And this is from a couple different points of view, right? Let us prioritize it, right? If technology prioritizes that, they're going to look at ROI. They're going to look at metrics and drivers. I want to be able to deliver for the customer, and I want to be able to deliver from a couple different aspects. I might want to implement Bizagi and RPA to mitigate risk, right? And there's no real ROI to risk mitigation. It improves the customer experience. It puts us in better light with our regulators and things like that, but is there really money associated with it, right? It allows me to apply my own value drivers to how we're implementing this technology. We're using Bizagi to orchestrate that layer of data coming into the bank, right? And again, that's going to optimize end-to-end processes. In particular, in the short term, we're looking at commercial lending in the commercial space, but we have quite a few products that we plan on long-term deploying across all of that commercial space. In creating that 360-degree view of customer information, right? Bizagi is a key player in that. And human capital is a key player in that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the teams we spun up to help facilitate this 360-degree view, and a concierge team we made. But using Bizagi, they're going to have all of that information and data at their fingertips. All right, so what are some of our outcomes? RPA, like I said, is our primary driver of yesterday to drive efficiency, make our business better, faster, stronger, and deliver for our customer. Today, we've integrated RPA in the commercial space with over 40 different systems. We've delivered about 40 FTE worth of digital workforce out there, and by the end of the year, that'll be 64 full-time employees worth of work being done through RPA. If you look at our commercial lending platform, 50% of that portfolio is fully managed by robots. And fully managed means the onboarding, the servicing, the closing of that loan and releasing of collateral, and payments being applied to that loan, principal and interest payments. If you look at the portfolio of how many loans were touched by a robot, it's between 70 and 80% of all of those loans at some point in time have been touched by a robot, either through one of those different areas, through onboarding, mostly servicing, because that's really where there's a lot of work to be done. And we've relieved the biggest pain point of our customers. From a commercial lending standpoint, that's when they pay off the loan, right? We're holding collateral, right? We make loans in the hundreds of millions and sometimes up into the billions of dollars. So if they pay off the loan and close the loan and it takes us 30 days to release $1 billion in collateral, people get a little frustrated, right? And they might not be willing to do business with us again. And that's really a huge, huge pain point that we've delivered here. Let's talk a little bit about the onboarding process. So I did a panel recently, we touched upon this use case, but it took 59 days on average to onboard a new customer in the commercial space. 59 days. Two months of time. This is frustrating for customers, colleagues, and it was part of our key strategy is how do we reduce that time, right? And there's a lot of levers. We pulled some risk levers. We got a little leeway from the risk people on the amount of QC. We're within our regulatory framework. But we looked at some of the systems that required triple checks and quadruple checks. So we pulled some risk levers. We looked a little bit at the process, the way people do it. And we made a couple tweaks there, right? Those two levers that we pulled reduced that time frame from 59 days into about the 30-day range, right? Which is good, but it still isn't great, right? We are using Bizagi and more RPA levers to reduce that time down to 9 days. That will put us in the best in class across our financial industry to onboard a customer, and not only onboard a customer, do it accurately, consistently, and deliver. All right, so our first year of just RPA. So our first year, we're about on the second year now. That first year was dedicated entirely to the back office, digitizing and commercial lending space. Now that we're bringing Bizagi on board, we're filling that gap in the commercial space, and we are expanding those RPA opportunities outside of that. So what does the future look like, right? We have a tremendous pipeline of opportunity. From a workflow perspective, we've got a lot of work to do. We are on that journey. We are moving as quickly as we can. But really, it's about looking towards the future, right? And this includes bringing new systems into the bank, bringing new technologies into the bank, and when systems change, we are hooked into that change. We are hooked into the RFP process of bringing new vendors and new software, right? What are we looking at? We're looking at making sure they can hook into our technology solutions. Are they set up the right way to interact with Bizagi efficiently and quickly, right? Are they set up to interact with RPA and our particular solution, Blue Prism? And that's a key driver, right? All of these new technologies we're taking into the bank, we are really doing a lot of work to make sure they fit into our plan and our landscape. We are looking at immediate integration of new systems, right? When new systems come into the bank, we make sure that day one, when they land, that we've got it hooked into our workflow tool, Bizagi, and that we've got it hooked into RPA. So that immediately we can have Bizagi orchestrate that data, orchestrate the request, the straightforward things that can be processed by a robot go to the digital workforce and get processed automatically. And some of those more complicated cases where we're doing something special for the customer, we're doing a special tweak to a service that we have because it's a valuable customer, are going to people, right? So we're using Bizagi to orchestrate all that data coming in. We're using RPA in Bizagi to remove the noise that occupies most people's days, and leaving people with valuable work. And we're doing it all in parallel, and that's really the critical piece. Tools like Bizagi, our expectation right off the bat, without even doing a lot of research, right? Just the reflex is that we're going to create a 5% efficiency in our operations, right? There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to hit that and far exceed that. Just by the way we're managing the way data goes from team to team, and the instantaneous nature that people know exactly when to take action, and they're not waiting on a system, a report, an overnight cycle. They're not waiting for that. It's coming to them instantaneous. And we're always looking at the future, right? So that includes blockchain technology, where we do quite a bit of reconciliation today. We've got RPA in that space, but blockchain certainly has some play there. Artificial intelligence and cognitive learning, especially in the commercial lending space, OCR is a big one for us in combination with cognitive learning. Right? Our loan documents can be 300 to 500 pages long. And how do we extract just the key data that we need and put it into systems? And really looking at that whole landscape. So just one more thing I really want to touch on is the people element of these tools, right? Our success with RPA, our success to date with Bizagi, and our future success is really centered around honest communication with our workforce, right? And sharing with them the strategy, right? And they've got to be on the bus with us, right? And not just on the bus along for the journey, they've got to be in the passenger seat or the driver's seat sometimes. They've got to see the technology, touch the technology, and feel the technology, and not just what we deliver. They are a part of that entire delivery process. They're watching us build the workflows, right? And it gives them context, right? Because when we go to them and describe to them what we're going to do, it's very ethereal. They walk away and say, I don't know how you're going to do that. This is a very complicated process. This is something I've been doing for 30 years, and I still don't have my head wrapped around it, right? So involving them in that process, bringing them along for that journey, honest and open communication is the most critical component. And what we found is, through RPA, what we're doing is removing noise from people's days, right? Using Bizagi, we are giving them one centralized location where they can see all the work they have to do, understand how they have to do it, and move it along the chain. We are adding time back in their day. We are retaining those colleagues, and most critically, what we hear from them is they don't have time to take on a stretch opportunity. In our organization, they want to grow, right? They want to do new things. They want to stretch. But if you're tied to an email inbox monitoring requests for 8 to 10 hours a day, it's difficult to do that, right? So by delivering these technologies, we have a more engaged workforce. They know where they fit into today's landscape and the future landscape, and we're giving them those opportunities to grow. And I think that's really a critical piece of this. I always look to organizations, and I think the one missing C-suite member is always a chief ethics officer. And that's a critical component of what we're doing here, right? Because if we're going to the business and saying, we're going to save 64 FTE, their immediate mind goes to, where are those going to come from, right? Who's not going to be here tomorrow? So it's very critical to bring people along for the journey, be honest, communicate the plan, and have an ethical strategy, have an ethics strategy related to all these. All right, so with that, I think we'll open it up to any Q&A that people have.
Matt, that was terrific. Thank you very much. Really good stuff. You mentioned customer obsession a number of times, and I was also very fascinated by the commercial loan example you gave, 59 days down to 39 days, down to 9 days. Is one of the benefits of the customer also greater transparency throughout that, of knowing where things stand, as opposed to Sally's updating a spreadsheet, I don't know when she'll be done?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is, right? That's what it is. It's about, we've created a concierge team today that is dedicated, each person is dedicated to a small set of customers, 10 or 20 customers. Today, that team looks very much like a triage team, right? They're getting the input from the customer, and they say, hey, listen, I'll get back to you. I'm going to answer all 12 of your questions, but I'm going to get back to you. And it takes 24 hours, 48 hours, and sometimes more when those products go outside of our space to get good answers, right? And when you're answering those amount of questions, the statuses can change, right? Bizagi is the critical missing piece there. If we've got that managing all of the workflows for all of those products that customer is inquiring about, we can give them an up-to-the-second status of each one of those. Right? We can give them reassurance, we can give them better expectations on when we're going to deliver, and we can honestly communicate some of the roadblocks we have within the bank. So it really is about transparency of where that request is, and transparency where we might be having challenges internally in relating to those customers.
Great, thank you.
The robot process automation is part of Bizagi or is from other company?
Yeah, it's a great question. We use Blue Prism for our robotic process automation. And I think, so it is a different company. And I think we're a little bit of a unicorn in this space, right? I think a lot of people start with Bizagi and then move into that RPA space. We started with RPA, and we've noticed, looking at those opportunities, that we need a formalized workflow tool, right? In addition to all the other challenges that these disparate or non-existing tools present, we need a formalized workflow tool. And there's a couple of key points to hit on that, right? A lot of times when I'm looking for opportunity from my business line, they have a perspective, they have a feeling, right? They have a feeling that something can be automated. They have a feeling that there's a bottleneck somewhere, right? So part of our future landscape is using Bizagi to drive not only what we couldn't automate yesterday, but what we're going to automate tomorrow, right? Because I can have a clear view at where are my bottlenecks? Where are things going back and forth and not moving forward? Where are my very high volume things that are relatively simple to execute? Where's that noise, right? What's preventing all this other work from moving forward? So yeah, they are two completely different animals, but it's bringing those together that I think creates what we talk about as a digital transformation.
Hey, Matt, just a quick question on the reporting side of the house. Are you using Bizagi reporting, or are you using some other third-party tool to pull out the information and report on?
Yeah, so great question. Yesterday's world, every team had their own workflow or not workflow, right? So people used various different ways to report. Excel spreadsheets, access databases, customized reporting. We've got some SQL queries, all these different things. Bizagi, we are on our way to implementing. So it is the future plan that Bizagi will be the centralized source of all of that reporting, right? It's going to take some work to get there. We have about 2,000 different processes. So that is the future plan, is to have Bizagi not only orchestrate the workflow, enable RPA, but also give a consistent view to our senior leadership team and our executive committee in report. Yep.
How complex it is to integrate with external systems?
Bizagi?
Yep.
So that's a little bit of a loaded question, I think. We talk about low code, no code, right? So there's some caveats there. And people who use RPA and Bizagi know this, right? We're never going to leave technology completely out of the equation, right? So there are integrations that go beyond the capabilities and skill sets of my technology-enabled operations team. I always have operated from the principle that nothing is impossible. So answering that is tough, but let's put it this way, right? We have not found one application to date that we could not successfully integrate with RPA or Bizagi. And we've got some old legacy systems, green screen, mainframe. In addition to that, there's other creative things you can do, right? RPA is one way, if you want to go to the front-end user interface to integrate with a system. We've got teams in our technology space that can help create APIs for us to facilitate that data orchestration. So I think with the right amount of creativity, the right amounts of tools in the toolkit, and the right people in place, nothing is impossible.
All right, hopefully one quick one. How are you guys handling document storage, and how does Bizagi play a role with that for you?
Great question. I'm very glad you asked that. So today we have a very challenging document management solution in place. I'm not going to put any names out there for what we're using, but it is really a roadblock. It's a roadblock for our relationship managers, uploading documents, classifying documents. It's a whole separate animal for people who want to pull those documents and find documents. So the plan, again, is to use Bizagi to do a piece of that document management. I think it's still a little up in the air how much of that will get done. As far as a formalized document management system organizationally, But I know that through these work requests, all of the pertinent documents are going to be part of that Bizagi workflow as far as reference. So the long-term storage and maintenance of those documents, to me, is a little fuzzy in Bizagi, but through the workflow maintenance and having all of that available through every step of the way is a critical component of how we deliver. All right. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.